So, with all of the work that goes behind building a site, what are some of the common pitfalls in UX design?
Really, for most startup and new businesses, I would say there's three that I see a lot of. The first, major pitfall that I see a lot of sites is not, working on their content enough. Either it's just too long. Like people on the web don't read, especially with this age of social media and video content. People just don't engage in text in the same way. They skim a lot and they skip a lot. And when they see a giant wall of text, people just gonna scroll by. They're not even gonna pay attention. Or on the opposite end, you have too short content. You have content that is not well thought out and not written in a way that convey your brand messaging. And it's important too, to have a hook for your content. It's for every sentence to have some reason for the audience to really engage with it. Else, they're not gonna pay attention. Even if, it's really short, if it's not engaging enough and it's not written in a language that they engage with, they're not gonna pay attention. The second pitfall, I think, is not building for mobile. A lot of, website really, have used these carousel that looks great on desktop. But on a mobile setting, you can only really see one slide at a time. So you're hiding a ton of content away. And if those content that got hidden away is important to your business and to your product, people won't notice because on the web, people just don't use carousel. People just don't engage with things that they don't need to do. They just scroll. That's the most common action that people are going to take. So it's important to make sure that things that you actually want to convey to your audience is present during the mobile experience. And the third, I think, this is a bit of a nitpick, but not left aligning your text. So a text, when you left align them, is much easier to read. And I see a lot of sites do this thing where they have center align or like justify. Those are just very hard to read, especially if you have a long paragraph text set in that way. So I think it's important if you want people to read your content, you should make it as easy as possible to read. And that's with left aligning because, your eye, the way you scan content always begin with the left. And unless you are right to left language, like, Hebrew, you should really pay attention to detail like this to really make an effective use of your website.
You said that was a little bit of a nitpick, but every detail matters, especially with people's short attention spans these days. You want to make sure everything is just as clear as possible as it could be on your site.
And that, what you say about, every attention matter, I think it, go without saying, but, images, you need to really pay attention to what images you're using, make sure it's on brand, make sure your content reflect what you're trying to say with your brand, but also the color, the size of your button, every detail matter. And when designing a website, you really need to test all of this thing out to make sure it's usable and the user actually engage in the way that you want them to, right? So, that are some of the things you really need to pay a lookout for when you are, building your very first site. Let it all